So the Open Justice Court of Protection project is designed to get more members of the public observing court of protection hearings. It came into being because Jenny Kitzinger and I had observed a lot of hearings concerning serious medical treatment in the Court of Protection. Those have been open to the public forever. And we've done that in our roles with the Coma and Disorders of Consciousness Research Centre. So we often accompanied families who were involved in court hearings about continuing or withdrawing clinically assisted nutrition and hydration into the courtroom and supported them through the court process. And I was involved in the first ever all remote hearing in the Court of Protection. It was a horrendous experience. It was absolutely devastating. It was completely lacking in empathy and understanding for what she, the daughter of the man whose feeding tube may or may not be withdrawn, was going through. She was there throughout and was completely ignored, except for when she was giving her evidence. And there was a lot of rather unpleasant crowing about the technology, which rather overtook a focus on P, the person at the centre of the case, her father. A lot of talk about, oh, look, can we do this? Can we get documents on screen? Can we play a video? Aren't we doing well? Hey, we're the first ever to be doing this. So I felt compelled to talk with the daughter, I called her Sarah, about her experience and to write up what it was like for us as lay participants in that court hearing, and to describe how horrendous it was. And I wrote quite a widely publicised and well-known blog piece for the Transparency Project about that hearing, which I think was then taken as meaning I was against remote hearings, full stop. And I wasn't so sure that remote hearings couldn't be done better. It was the process of trying to observe that many remote hearings. I very quickly answered my own question: can remote hearings be done with empathy? Can they be done sensitively? Can they be justice as opposed to miscarriage of justice? And my answer is yes. Now, when the public health crisis hit, the transparency pilot was predicated on the idea that these hearings were in courtrooms and that members of the public would walk through doors and sit on actual seats in physical public galleries. And of course, this wasn't going to be possible. So the transparency pilot was suspended, and all of the transparency orders that permit members of the public to attend and tell them what the reporting restrictions are were immediately, I'm not sure what the right word is, retracted, annulled, whatever. They were no longer applicable. And so the word private started to be seen against an awful lot of Court of Protection hearings in the listings. Private didn't turn out to mean that you couldn't go there, and I had to work this out. What private meant was the transparency order that used to be in place and is normally in place is no longer there, but if you want to go, you just need to ask and give a reason and we'll let you in. We do updates on developments, and we are also very aware that the feedback that we're providing about our experience as relatively savvy researchers in the Court of Protection, if we're having difficulty getting access, so, what hope anybody else? And we're aware that that's being fed back to the Court of Protection, to Hive, which is headed up by Mr. Justice Hayden and is coordinating the activities of the Court of Protection during the public health crisis. And we're aware, for example, that they have made huge efforts to support the project and to support open justice more generally. Specifically, here the listings have improved. They're not there yet, but they've improved massively in terms, for example, of providing contact details. That might sound a small thing, but it's really basic if you want access. Many, many more now provide contact details. Many more now also provide some basic information about what you might be going to see, because before, literally all you got would be 10 o'clock, before Justice Keenan, number 1357892. Well, that doesn't tell you much. Now, increasingly, we're seeing things like where P should live and what care P should receive, or some tag of some kind that gives you a sense of what it is that you might choose that hearing to observe, because those might be your interests. And another way in which things have really improved, and again, this is down to Mr. Justice Hayden, has been that he wrote a letter very early on in this process saying, please, judges, ensure that the applicant, so the counsel for the applicant in court, provides a summary of the issues to be addressed, so that if they're not in the listings, you're not thrown in at the deep end with barristers arguing with each other about something without any sense of who P is, what their impairment is, what they have capacity to decide and not to decide, and what the court is now charged with trying to figure out. So the hearings are open to any member of the public, and there quite a lot of lawyers are attending, student lawyers, and surprisingly lawyers from other parts of the legal system. But I would say maybe 2/3 of the people who are taking up the invitation to be observers are health and social care professionals, partly because some of them are anxious about needing to be in court themselves in the future, or because they have got clients whose cases will be before the courts, whether or not they're involved. So they're aware of the court processing that happens in their clients' lives. But many of them are seeking to understand better how the Mental Capacity Act works, not in black letter law, and not via training that just keeps putting up sections of the Mental Capacity Act and reading them out to people and then referring to case law, but actually unfolding in practice. And that's what you get to see when you observe a hearing. You get to see how the judges think about it and how it unfolds moment by moment, with real contingencies in place, like, well, we can't do that because, or we tried that and it didn't work. So that this is not abstract. This is vivid, live, concrete. And so if you look at the professionals who've written blogs on our site, what they are reflecting on often is how this impacts upon their own understanding of what they're doing in their everyday lives, as psychologists, as social workers, sometimes as case managers. We have an MCA trainer. And a very few people who've observed are family members of people who are going to go through the courts. And they're asking to observe court of protection hearings in advance of being in court themselves, either as litigants in person in a couple of cases, or simply as an observer themselves for their family member. And they're wanting to prepare themselves for that, which is, of course, an invaluable and really important opportunity.